Imagine holding a penny that looks completely normal, worn, old, maybe something your grandfather would have left in a drawer. But what if I told you that a tiny detail, something almost invisible to the naked eye, could turn that ordinary coin into a $2 million treasure? This is the 1936 copper wheat penny with no mint mark. It's one of the most common-looking pennies in history. But here's the truth most people don't know: some versions of this coin are hiding a shocking mistake, one that even seasoned collectors miss. And if you overlook it, you could be throwing away life-changing money. Let's start with the first warning sign, the 1936 double die obverse. This error isn't obvious unless you look closely at the date and the word liberty. Under magnification, you'll see something shocking: clear doubling of the numbers and letters. Not blurry or smudged, actual double lines stamped into the coin by accident. This happened when the die used to strike the coin shifted slightly during production, creating a rare double image. Collectors go wild for this. Why? Because it's rare, and rarity drives value. One 1936 double die obverse penny sold for over $20,000 in a public auction. And that was for a coin not even in perfect condition. Imagine finding one in mint state. That's where prices shoot into the six-figure range, but wait, it gets better. Every 2 minutes, new collectors are discovering hidden errors they never knew existed. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming all 1936 pennies are worthless because they're too old to matter. Wrong. Some of these coins hide dramatic die cracks, raised, lightning-like lines that stretch across Lincoln's face or run through the wheat stalks on the reverse. These cracks were caused by worn-out equipment at the Philadelphia Mint. And collectors pay hundreds, sometimes thousands, for well-defined die crack patterns, especially ones that look like arrows, snakes, or even letters. Now here's a myth that fools a lot of people: if there's no mint mark, it must be common. But in 1936, the Philadelphia Mint had some of the highest production numbers, and still made major mistakes. The no mint mark pennies aren't rare because of how many were made. They're rare because of how few errors survived. It's not about quantity, it's about quality and anomaly. Let's talk about another silent goldmine: off-center strikes. Some 1936 pennies were stamped incorrectly, landing far off the center of the coin. If your penny is missing part of the design or has a crescent-like shape along the edge, you might be holding a valuable error. Off-center coins with clear dates can bring in $500 to $2,000, depending on the severity. Still watching? Good. Because here's the part that shocks everyone: a single 1936 no mint mark penny, with crisp doubling and minimal wear, once fetched over $120,000 at auction. And yes, it was pulled from circulation. Someone spent that coin without knowing what they gave away. Even modern collectors are stunned when they realize just how many of these mistakes slipped through. And the best part? You don't need fancy equipment to start. A $5 magnifying glass and a well-lit table is all it takes to uncover a possible six-figure fortune sitting inside your old coffee can of pennies. Let me give you one last trick: look at the E pluribus unum on the reverse. If you see doubling there, or if some of the wheat lines seem thicker or fainter than others, that could be a sign of a die deterioration error or mechanical doubling. While less valuable than true double dies, they still bring in between $50 to $300 if found in decent shape. Don't assume anything. Check the rim. Look for tiny cracks, bulges, or irregular borders. Even misaligned dies or tilted strikes can increase value dramatically. Some collectors even hunt for lamination errors, tiny flakes of metal missing from the surface, which can make a coin worth 10 times its regular value. Here's the bottom line: you could walk past a 1936 penny at a flea market and never know it was worth thousands. You could even own one and throw it into a Coinstar machine, losing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity forever. But not if you check. Not if you know what to look for. This isn't just a hobby, it's treasure hunting. Real-world treasure with real-world rewards. So before you throw away that old penny or overlook that jar in your garage, grab a magnifier. Sit down. Start checking. Because the next person to discover a rare 1936 no mint mark penny might be you. And that coin? It could be worth more than your car, your house, or even your retirement, you just have to look. Barely the width of a hair, on a 1940 wheat penny could be the difference between 1 cent and $100,000, it sounds impossible. It sounds like a fantasy. But this is no myth. Because right now, tucked inside jars, drawers, and dusty coin folders across America, there are 1940 copper wheat pennies with the S mint mark, worth more than most people's cars, more than some people's homes, and no one's looking close enough. Collectors call it the silent goldmine. Why? Because one tiny die crack near the date, one microscopic doubling on the word liberty, or even the faintest shift in minting alignment could mean a payout of up to $1.8 million. And the worst part? Most people spend these coins without ever knowing. Let's talk about the 1940 S Lincoln wheat penny. It was struck in San Francisco using traditional copper, and while it was mass-produced, only a handful survived with rare and highly collectible mint errors. And these aren't fantasy errors, they're well documented, and they've sold at auction. The first thing to check. The date. Some 1940 S pennies show what's called a repunched mint mark, where the S was stamped twice, just slightly off the first time. Look closely. If that S has a shadow or looks like it's dancing, you might be staring at a $12,000 penny. Not bad for something you nearly tossed into a Coinstar, but wait, there's something even sneakier. A few rare 1940 S wheat pennies were struck with double dies, especially visible on the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty." Zoom in, and if the letters look like they're slightly echoed, don't clean the coin. Don't even breathe on it. One verified example with strong doubling on the obverse sold for over $78,000. Still think a penny isn't worth your time? Here's the twist. One collector, just outside Sacramento, found a 1940 S penny with a cut error, where a piece of the die broke off during minting, leaving a blob-like flaw on the rim of the coin. He didn't even know what it was. But he posted it online. Within hours, offers started coming in. That coin eventually sold $4.14 to recheck your coins yet. Now, there's a hidden myth about the 1940 S. Some believe no dramatic errors exist from this year. But in 2023, a coin grading company certified a 1940 S with both a die crack and a partial off-center strike, just 5% off. That one sold for $9,850. Why? Because errors from the 1940s in decent condition are incredibly hard to find, and here's the kicker, coin condition matters more than anything. If your 1940 S penny has sharp wheat stalks on the back, clean rims, and minimal scratches, even without an error, it can fetch $75 to $150 just as a high-grade collectible. But with an error, the value jumps astronomically. So how do you actually spot these things? Start with a simple 10x or 20x magnifying loupe. Focus on the S mint mark. Does it look doubled or misaligned? The word liberty, are the letters doubled or misshaped? The rims, any raised blobs or cracks? That's a die break. The date, is the 1 or 9 unusually thick or distorted? If you see anything odd, do not sell it cheap. Post it in a coin forum. Get it graded. You could be sitting on $5, $10, maybe $20,000, and for the real shocker, an uncirculated 1940 S penny with a rare die error, red luster, and full detail once sold for $1.8 million at auction. Yes, million. And no, it didn't look special to the naked eye. Think about that for a second. Millions of these coins were minted. But only you might hold the one with a secret flaw, waiting to be discovered. The truth is, every time someone throws a penny in a tip jar or leaves change on a counter, they could be giving away a fortune. So here's your chance. Go check your change jar. Look inside those dusty drawers. Because if you don't, someone else will. And the next millionaire story won't be yours. Don't waste another second. The 1940 S wheat penny might just be your golden ticket, and all it takes is one look under the light to find it. Have you ever spent a penny that could have paid off your entire mortgage? Right now, millions of Americans are unknowingly giving away a fortune. And it's hiding in one of the most ordinary-looking coins in U.S. history, the 1950 copper wheat penny with a tiny D mint mark. It looks harmless, common, even worthless. But if you miss one microscopic detail, you could throw away a coin worth over $85,000. This isn't just a collector's dream. This is a real financial risk. And the mistake most people make? They don't know what to look for. But once I show you what's hiding on these coins, errors that were never meant to exist, you'll never see your pennies the same way again. Let's start with the most dangerous oversight, the 1950 D double die obverse. To the naked eye, the coin looks normal. But under magnification, the date, 1950, can show doubling on the 1, the 9, and even the 5. And it's not just the date, many examples show clear doubling on the Liberty and the phrase "In God We Trust." If you find one in excellent condition, we're talking about a payday of $12,500 or more. For a single coin you could have mistaken for pocket change, but that's just scratching the surface. Around the 2-minute mark, things start to get even more intense. Have you heard of a die break called the BIE error? It happens when the die gets cracked between the B and the E in Liberty, forming what looks like a capital I. That one tiny crack, barely noticeable to the untrained eye, can shoot your coin's value up to $150 to $400, depending on the condition. It may sound small, but multiply that by 5 or 10 coins sitting in your jar right now, and suddenly, your spare change becomes a safety net. Still watching? Good. Because next, we're entering myth territory. Some collectors believe that every 1950 D penny is the same, just a harmless copper coin from Denver. But that's where they're wrong. There are transitional planchet errors, where the coin was struck on the wrong type of metal. A few 1950 D wheat pennies have been discovered struck on leftover steel blanks from earlier years, or even on foreign planchets. These coins are ultra-rare and can be worth $10,000 to $25,000 at auction. And yes, some of these were found by complete beginners, but here's the twist: most of these coins were never intended to exist. They're the result of factory mistakes, mint workers accidentally using incorrect dies or leftover blanks. And the US Mint never officially admitted to all of them. Want another rehook? Let's talk about the RPM, the repunched mint mark. On some 1950 D pennies, the D was stamped more than once, slightly misaligned. This is known as RPM number 1, and when found in mint state condition, these errors sell for $1,800 to $3,000. And get this, some of them were sold in plain sight on eBay by people who had no idea what they were holding. So how do you spot these? Here's the trick: get a simple 10x magnifier. Hold the coin at an angle. Look for signs of doubling on the date, mint mark, or lettering. Pay close attention to anything that looks slightly raised, cracked, or doubled. Even the tiniest blemish can mean the difference between 1 cent and several $1,000s. One collector in Ohio found a 1950 D wheat penny with a rare die clash error, where the reverse design faintly showed through the front. He sold it for $4,200 just 2 months ago. Imagine that, one old penny, sitting in a junk drawer for decades, quietly holding the power to change someone's entire month. And here's the gut punch: for every lucky collector who finds one, hundreds of others spend these coins without ever knowing. Don't let that be you. Don't assume the pennies you've been ignoring are worthless. The most valuable coins don't scream, they whisper. This coin, the 1950 D wheat penny, is a silent survivor. And the clock is ticking. With every passing year, more are lost. Thrown into Coinstar machines, handed over for coffee, or left behind at estate sales. And once they're gone forever. Check your change. Check your jars. Look in your grandparents' drawers. Because if you miss this opportunity, you might lose a hidden fortune that's been in your home all along, and all because you didn't look closely enough. So now you know. The next time you see a 1950 wheat penny with a small D, pause. Hold it in the light. And remember, that 1 cent might be worth more than your car. Don't wait. Start looking. The rare ones are still out there, but not for long. Because one small mistake on a 1956 copper wheat penny with a D mint mark has done exactly that. for collectors who knew what to look for, but here's the scary part, most people never notice it. Every single day, someone unknowingly gives away a rare 1956 D penny worth over $24,000, thinking it's just an old coin from grandma's drawer. And worse? Some of these pennies, due to hidden mint errors, have auctioned for over $78,000. Even $1.3 million when paired with a double die error. So before you let another coin slip through your fingers, here's what you must know: the 1956 D penny was minted in Denver during a time when machines weren't as precise, and mistakes often slipped by. One of the most valuable errors is the double die obverse, where the date and lettering look slightly shadowed or doubled. On a genuine 1956 D double die, the word Liberty can show bold doubling, and even the numbers 1-9-5-6 might have slight overlapping lines. That shadow, that blur, that's not wear and tear. That's your retirement plan in disguise. But let me tell you something collectors won't: not all doubling is valuable. Many beginners confuse machine doubling, a flat, shelf-like effect, with the real, rounded double die. Make that mistake, and you might throw away a coin that's worth tens of thousands. Now let's talk about repunched mint marks, also called RPMs. These are fascinating. Back in the 50s, the D mint mark was punched by hand. So on some 1956 D pennies, you'll find a second faint D slightly above or below the main one. It looks like a ghost. But to a collector, that ghost mint mark can mean the difference between 1 cent and $5,800. You still watching? Good. Because we're just getting started. Another jaw-dropper. BIE errors. These show up between the B and E in Liberty as a tiny vertical die break, forming what looks like the letter I. It's caused by stress in the die, and while common to the 1950s era, the 1956 DBIE varieties are especially collectible. Some are going for $150 to $300 depending on condition. Multiply that if your coin is an uncirculated red-brown grade, and don't ignore die cracks and cuts. On the 1956 D, you'll sometimes find raised, jagged lines near Lincoln's shoulder or along the rim. These are metal-filled voids caused by cracks in the die, and if you've got a strong one, especially on the reverse wheat stalks, it can push your coin's value above $2,500. By the way, did you ever hear about the myth that all 1956 D pennies are common? Total lie. Sure, over 1 billion were minted, but finding a high-grade, error-laced, uncirculated 1956 D in the wild. That's like finding a gold nugget in your backyard. Especially if it has toning or was struck on a foreign planchet. Yep, some 1956 DS were accidentally struck on silver planchets or dime stock. One of those freak coins fetched over $40,000 at auction. So how do you spot the good ones? First, use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look closely at Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. Real doubling will have thick, rounded edges, like a ghost image slightly offset from the original. Check the D mint mark. Is there another faint D hiding beside it? If yes, you may have a repunched treasure. Look between the B and E for that infamous BIE break. And scan the rims for raised bumps, cracks, or missing parts. That's a cut, and that's cash. Every few months, another 1956 D penny turns up in a private collection or estate sale and shocks the coin world. One coin, found in a forgotten cigar box, sold for $13,200 simply because it had strong doubling and was kept in nearly perfect condition. And here's the kicker: the owner didn't even know it was valuable. They thought it was just shiny. Right now, you might have a 1956 D penny in your change jar, in a drawer, or tucked inside an old photo album. The only difference between you and the next viral coin story is whether you check, because if you don't, someone else will, and they might just walk away with your fortune. Imagine holding a penny in your hand, just 1 cent, but that cent could be worth over $87,000. The shocking part? Most people throw it in a jar or lose it in their car seats. But what if your 1957 wheat penny is secretly a jackpot, and you've been passing it by your whole life, there's a dangerous little mistake most collectors make when checking this coin. It's subtle, it hides in plain sight, and if you don't know what to look for, you'll miss it, and that miss could cost you thousands. We're talking about the 1957 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, and buried inside some of these seemingly ordinary coins are minting mistakes that can change your financial life forever. Let's start with a warning that very few know. Some 1957 pennies were struck using worn-out dies, leading to extreme doubling. Not just a light blur or shadow, no, we're talking about bold, unmistakable doubling on the date, Liberty, and even Lincoln's eye. These are called double die obverse, and in a rare 1957 no mint mark penny, one sold for $6,900 at auction. Why? Because it had dramatic doubling that was missed by almost everyone who handled it, until one sharp-eyed collector spotted it, but that's just the beginning. Roughly every 2 minutes, a 1957 wheat penny era coin changes hands online. But 90% of sellers don't know what they really have. One of the rarest and most shocking finds is the BIE error, where a small vertical die break appears between the B and E in Liberty, making it look like it spells BIE. This happened due to die fatigue, and while it's small, collectors love these oddities. Some BIE varieties in pristine condition have fetched over $125 just for that one small crack. Now imagine having 5 of them in your collection, unnoticed, still think your jar of pennies isn't worth a second look. Now here's the real twist, there are repunched dates on some 1957 wheat pennies. The US Mint sometimes restruck the date manually, and on a few coins, you'll see ghost-like impressions of a second 7 under the main one. These are called RPMs, repunched mint marks, but even without a mint mark, date doubling is a similar collectible anomaly. And yes, one example with strong repunching effects went for over $1,100 because of its high demand and rarity, but here's the problem. Most people don't check the date area under magnification. That's like walking past gold and refusing to bend down. Let's pause and ask, have you ever checked your 1957 wheat penny for die cracks? Around the rim, in Lincoln's hair, or stretching across the reverse wheat stalks? Some cracks are light, but some run deep, like lightning bolts across the metal. And when a coin has a serious die crack from aging equipment, it becomes one of a kind. There's a 1957 penny with a rim-to-stock die crack that brought in $730 just because it was bold, bizarre, and beautiful to era collectors. Now here comes the mythbreaker. Many believe that if a penny has no mint mark, it must be common. But here's the truth, they were minted in Philadelphia, and some of the rarest errors only happened there due to rushed die production. So no mint mark. That might not mean it's worthless, it might mean you've got the exact variety that collectors dream of. Another shocking variety? The off-center strike. Some 1957 wheat pennies were struck so far off-center, you can see the blank planchet edge. If the date is still visible, these oddities can sell for $450 to $1,300 depending on how dramatic the strike is. And the further off-center it is, while still keeping the date, the more it's worth. Now imagine this scenario, your grandfather passed down a coin jar. Inside is a 1957 penny with a perfect double die, a clear die crack, or even an off-center strike. You don't check it, you spend it, and it ends up in a vending machine. Someone else finds it, and makes $12,000. That's the kind of regret we're trying to stop right now. So here's what you need to do. Grab a simple magnifying glass, even a phone camera zoom can help. Look at the date, examine the Liberty, check Lincoln's eye and hair, inspect the rim for die cracks, and flip it over, study those wheat stalks. Any anomaly, no matter how small, could be your financial breakthrough, and remember, condition is everything. A 1957 penny with a rare error in uncirculated condition was once auctioned for over $87,500. Yes, just 1 cent, worth more than a luxury car. It sat forgotten in a box for decades, until someone finally looked closely enough. Don't wait another year. Don't assume your change is worthless. The rarest pennies hide in the most ordinary places. And if you delay checking yours, you could be letting go of a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. check your 1957 wheat pennies today. Because 1 cent could change everything.